The train tracks stretched endlessly across the golden autumn fields, their steel veins cutting through a world that felt both vast and unwelcoming. The air smelled of smoke and dust, heavy with the weight of promises broken and journeys unfinished. On a worn wooden bench at the station sat a young woman, her bare feet pressing against the cool planks, her trembling hands clutching a crumpled letter that had carried her across hundreds of miles. Her hair fell in loose waves, her eyes wide yet shadowed with despair, for she was a mail-order bride who had been summoned, and then abandoned. Every passenger who stepped off the train had been greeted by eager smiles, warm embraces, and hopeful reunions. But she remained, alone, her heart breaking a little more with each passing moment. She thought she was unwanted, discarded like a forgotten parcel. And just when her hope was nearly extinguished, a small hand tugged at her skirt and a soft, trembling voice whispered words that would change everything. "Will you be my mommy?" Before I continue, dear friends, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of love to heal the deepest wounds, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel Kindness Corner. Together, we can keep spreading stories that remind us of the beauty and hope that still exists in this world. The young woman's name was Clara. She had grown up in a world where poverty left little room for dreams, where every day was a battle to survive, and where women often had Northwest choice but to place their fate into the hands of strangers. When she had responded to an advertisement promising marriage, a home, and stability in the western frontier, Clara had seen it not as a chance for love but as a desperate lifeline. She had sewn her few belongings into a small sack, sold the only shoes she owned to pay for her ticket, and traveled across states with the belief that someone was waiting for her. Yet when the train arrived, no one stepped forward to claim her hand. She sat on that bench for hours, her heart sinking with every tick of the clock, until tears welled in her eyes and she realized she had been deceived, or forgotten. It was then that the little girl appeared. Barely 5 years old, with golden hair braided loosely and a patched teddy bear dangling from her hand, the child approached Clara with an innocence that pierced through the young woman's sorrow. Her eyes, round and searching, held no judgment, only longing. She asked that simple question, one that carried the weight of loss too heavy for someone her age, "Will you be my mommy?" Clara's breath caught in her chest, for she saw in the child's eyes the same emptiness that had haunted her own. The girl's father had died in an accident, and her mother, exhausted and frail, had not survived the harsh winter. She had been living with distant relatives who saw her not as a child to love, but as a burden to bear. And in Clara, she saw something no one else could, the possibility of family, of warmth, of belonging. Clara wanted to say yes instantly, to scoop the child into her arms and never let her go. But she knew the world was not so simple. She was penniless, homeless, and alone in a town where she was a stranger. Even so, the little girl's plea stirred something inside her, an ache she hadn't known she carried, the ache of wanting to matter, to be needed, to love and be loved in return. And so, with trembling hands, Clara wiped her tears, held the child's small hand, and whispered back that she would not leave her side. The townspeople watched from a distance, some with pity, others with suspicion. In that small frontier town, strangers were often met with distrust, and a woman without a husband or protector was considered an outcast. Whispers followed Clara wherever she walked, and she quickly realized that survival would not come easily. She was offered scraps of work, washing laundry, scrubbing floors, helping at the bakery, but the wages were barely enough to buy bread for herself, let alone for the little girl. Nights were spent in the back of barns or huddled beneath the stars, her arms wrapped tightly around the child to keep her warm. Hunger gnawed at her, exhaustion threatened to break her spirit, yet Clara refused to let go of the one soul who had given her purpose. There were moments when despair clawed at her heart. She would sit alone after the child had fallen asleep, staring at the dark horizon, wondering if she had made a mistake by staying. Perhaps she should have boarded the next train and disappeared, leaving behind a town that didn't want her. But every morning, when the little girl's hand found hers and those wide eyes looked up at her with trust, Clara felt strength return to her bones. For the first time in her life, she was no longer invisible. She was someone's hope, someone's safety, someone's mother in all but name. What Clara didn't know was that her courage and kindness had not gone unnoticed. A local rancher, a quiet man named James, had watched her from afar. He had seen the way she shielded the child from the cold, how she worked tirelessly for pennies, how she endured whispers without lashing out, and how she smiled at the little girl even when her own heart was breaking. James was a widower, a man who had lost much himself, and he recognized in Clara a spirit forged not from ease, but from hardship. Slowly, cautiously, he began to step forward, offering food when he could, leaving firewood near the barn where she slept, and giving small jobs on his ranch that paid a little more than the rest. Clara, wary of men after her painful abandonment, resisted at first. But James's quiet consistency began to melt the walls she had built. Through storms, hunger, and endless days of toil, Clara and the little girl grew inseparable. She brushed her hair with gentle fingers, mended her torn clothes, told her stories at night, and kissed her forehead when she cried. The girl, who once walked with slumped shoulders and tear-stained cheeks, began to laugh again, began to run barefoot through fields, began to believe in love once more. And Clara, who had thought herself unwanted, found that she had become the center of someone's world. The turning point came one evening when the town gathered for a harvest festival. Clara, still in her plain brown dress, sat quietly at the edge, holding the little girl's hand. She felt out of place among the music and laughter, certain she did not belong. But when James approached her with a smile and asked her to join in, something shifted. The townspeople watched as the three of them, James, Clara, and the little girl, danced together under the lanterns. In that moment, judgment softened into acceptance, suspicion gave way to respect, and whispers turned into warm smiles. For they saw not a discarded mail-order bride, but a woman of resilience and love who had given a child back her laughter. Friends, if this story has touched your heart, if you believe that love can be found in the most unexpected places, and that no one is ever truly unwanted, please don't forget to like this video, share it with others who need hope, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us keep telling stories that remind us of the goodness still alive in this world. And before we end, I want to leave you with this special request. Please comment below, what does family mean to you? Is it blood, or is it the bond of love, kindness, and second chances? We would love to hear your thoughts. Because in the end, Clara's story reminds us that even when the world tells us we are unwanted, one small voice, sometimes from a child, sometimes from a stranger, can whisper the truth that changes everything. We are needed, we are loved, and we belong.